Good evening, my dear adventurers. It's Yisselda. Tonight, we cross the fog and into the lands between, to follow the tale of one who dared to defy the hand of fate. A daughter of moonlight who cast aside her flesh to escape the grasp of the greater will. This is the story of Lunar Princess Ranni. In a realm torn by demigods and death, where the Erdtree's golden glow casts long shadows, she alone dreamed of something colder and more enduring. Princess of Caria, daughter of Queen Rennala of the full moon, spirit of rebellion and lunar sovereign, Ranni calls the tarnished to her side to aid her in shaping a new destiny and to walk with her into the long night of the Age of Stars. So settle yourself into a cozy spot. Let your body sink into the softness beneath you. Let your breath find its rhythm, and your thoughts drift like a leaf upon still water. And if you enjoy these journeys here at the Cosy Chocobo, I'd be ever grateful if you give a like and subscribe, or share a comment with where you'd like our next adventure to take us. Your support means more than I can say. Thank you again, and now, let's begin. Far to the north of Limgrave, past Castle Stormvale's broken towers, lies a land half drowned and forever cloaked in mist. Liurnia of the Lakes. Here, tendrils of silver fog drifts low across flooded valleys, and great trees lean over glassy water. Towering cliffs rise from the lake like the broken ruins of ancient gods, and narrow high roads cling to the rock. Along the eastern edge, the Bellum Highway winds between forgotten battlefields and broken stone, while to the west, shadows gather in the glinting halls of magic. By day, the land is painted in hues of soft blue and grey, the sun filtered through endless haze. By night, the stars shimmer across the lake's dark surface, and at its heart rises the Academy of Raya Lucaria, a towering citadel of knowledge and sorcery. It sits on an island at the lake's centre, its bridges long and crumbling, its silent halls thick with glintstone magic. Around it, Academy Gate Town sprawls, half submerged, once bustling with life, now slowly swallowed by water and watched over by Raya Lucarian soldiers. It was in these lands, in the northwestern cliffs, where the Carian royal family made their seat as rulers of Liurnia and original stewards of the Academy. The Carians were not simply kings and queens of steel and might. They were sorcerers, descended from astrologers who once lived atop mountains so high they shared their skies with the fire giants. Those astrologers, ancient and distant, read the fate in the stars, though fate, it is said, no longer dwells in the night sky. From that lineage came the Carians, and under Queen Rennala, the full moon, they reached their height. In her youth, Rennala was a radiant champion, brilliant and powerful, her magic infused with the pale light of the moon. With her glintstone knights at her side, she charmed the scholars of the Academy and became its master. Under her rule, the House of Caria was crowned in silver. The royal family wore gowns of bright blue and were served by magic preceptors with wide-brimmed hats, the movements of the stars drawn inside like constellations in motion. Their sorcery, Carian glintstone magic, diverged from traditional forms, shaped not by stars alone, but also by the moon, memory, and enchantment. In time, they created spells that conjured glowing blades of magic, glint blades that hovered in the air like a phalanx of spectral swords. It is said the earliest of these was the prototype for the many royal sword sorceries that followed. Spells that could sweep, pierce, and rain down in elegant, deadly waves. Some claimed the Crystallians, ancient beings of crystal, taught the Carians these arts in exchange for some forgotten vow. But if the Carian preceptors were scholars of the moon, it was their enchanted knights who gave the House of Caria its enduring legend. Fewer than 20 in number, these warriors were personally anointed by the Lunar Queen. Their swords shimmered with embedded glintstone, allowing them to cast sorceries in the midst of battle. These knights were said to rival even the champions of gold, striking in precise rhythmic waves of steel and sorcery. Some among them could stave off the onset of madness, or sleep through their magic alone, holding the line even as others faltered. Among their number were also enchanted troll knights, bound by oath and treated not as beasts, but as true comrades. They had once fought beside Queen Rennala, and when she called, they came again, massive, proud, and noble-hearted. These trolls would fight shoulder to shoulder with their human allies, defenders of moonlight and memory. Of all the enchanted knights, one name endures above the rest: Loretta. Once a royal Carian knight and protector of the realm, she fought mounted with a curved whimsical, but her true gift lay in her sorceries, most notably a bow of pure magic she shaped from starlight. Though she later left Caria in search of a haven for the Albinaurics, her spirit remains, guarding the manor to this day. Indeed, Caria offered a rare sanctuary for Albinaurics, artificial life forms feared and shunned throughout the lands between. Some, like Pydia, a gentle Albinauric mage, served the royal family and found in their halls a quiet refuge. Here, they were met not with persecution, but with purpose. In time, as the Carians' influence waned, a new school rose within the academy, the Lazuli Conspectus. These scholars revered the moon alongside the stars and sought to master Carian sorcery. Their views were deemed unorthodox, even heretical, by others in the academy. But still, they studied in secret, viewing the moon not as rivals to the stars, but as their twin. And so, even as the age of fate faded and the constellations grew still, the legacy of the Carian royals endured. In moonlight, in sorcery, in the silver swords of enchanted knights, and in the quiet halls of a manor perched above the lake, where blue roses bloom in eternal dusk. Far in the past, when the age of the Erd Tree began to bloom under Queen Marika the Eternal, a golden champion stepped forth from obscurity. His name was Radagon, a warrior of radiant power, his hair the colour of burning autumn leaves. With spear in hand and grace at his back, he was sent to conquer the mist-laden lands of Liurnia, to subdue the sorcerers who had long read fate in the stars. Twice did Radagon lead his host into war against Rennala and the Academy of Raya Lucaria. Yet neither side could claim victory. Again and again, battle gave way to stalemate, and from those embattled nights, something unexpected took root. Affection. Radagon, it is said, sought atonement from his wars. He bathed in celestial dew, the sacred balm of repentance, and offered his love to the queen he once called foe. He and Rennala were wed at the Church of Vows, beneath moonlight and gold. This union of moon and tree, of sorcery and grace, would bring both reconciliation and sorrow in equal measure. To seal their bond, Rennala bestowed upon Radagon a great sword, as was the ancient custom of Carian queens, a symbol of love, loyalty, and the silver path ahead. And so, Radagon joined the House of Caria, donning its blue and commanding its preceptors to wear masks of confidence. He studied glintstone magic at the Academy, walked its halls, and for a time the Golden Champion and the Lunar Queen ruled side by side. And in that moonlit household, 3 children were born: Radahn, Ranni, and Rykard. From her mother, Ranni inherited the sorcery of the moon. From her father, the blood of the Erd Tree. A child of 2 orders, born of a time balanced delicately between old and new. But even in her earliest years, her life bore the mark of fracture. For after Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, was cast out of the lands between, Marika summoned Radagon back. He left Rennala and the silver halls of Caria to become her consort, second Elden Lord, and her second husband. Their children, Ranni, Radahn, and Rykard, became her stepchildren, now demigods by decree. When Radagon vanished from her side, Rennala's heart cracked like glass. Her grief left her hollow, and in that void, the academy she once ruled with elegance turned upon her. Her own students rose in rebellion. They locked her within the grand library. The queen had become a ghost of herself, her thoughts lost as she cradled the amber egg, Radagon's last gift to her that housed his great rune and shattered memories. In those silent corridors, Ranni grew, cherished but alone. Her brother Radahn, proud and colossal, looked to the stars with the warrior's hunger. Her brother, Rykard, strange and secretive, turned his gaze to the depths beneath the world. But Ranni gazed upward with firm resolve. Deep in the woods, Ranni encountered a snowy crone who would go on to become her secret mentor. She was an old witch, well versed in cold-based sorceries, and she taught Ranni to fear the dark moon as she imparted her magic. The full dark moon, cold and leaden, would become Ranni's sigil and symbol of her power and authority. In the chill gardens of Caria, beneath the moon's soft glow, the Snow Witch whispered truths of stars and silence. of a freedom beyond reach, hidden in the void. And there, among silver fountains and cold air, Ranni listened, with her pale hair glinting like the snow, her small hands folded in thought. She heard what others could not. The stars did not promise warmth. They promised escape. She alone would be the one to control her fate, as she saw it written in the stars. And beyond the manor, war was brewing. The harmony between Caria and the Academy had long since rotted. The sorcerers of Raya Lucaria no longer bowed to royal blood. Their soldiers, known as the Knights of the Cuckoo, were given free rein to strike where they wished. They wielded lesser spells and faux sorceries, imitations of deeper power, taught in exchange for bloodshed. Their symbol, the peering cuckoo bird, was a mark of ambition, cleverness, and rebellion. And so, Liurnia descended into civil war. On one side, the Carians and their enchanted knights. On the other, the Academy, its scholars, and the cuckoo host. The Carians, sensing betrayal long before it came, had prepared. They devised counter-magics, glint blades that could pierce through hostile spells, and arcane barriers that scattered enchantments like petals in wind. The moon and the stars would go their separate ways. The war reached its crescendo with the siege of Caria Manor. The Carians were caught off guard, their numbers thinning, their queen fading, but their strength had not yet failed. At the gates of their ancestral home, they conjured a mighty spell, a great enchanted snare that caught the cuckoo knights in its invisible teeth. To this day, it holds their souls fast within the manor walls. Ranni, though young, witnessed it all. The fading of her mother, the hunger of her brothers, the treachery of the Academy, the war of stars and scholars, and above it all, the quiet moon, watching. In that stillness, she began to dream of escape, of cutting the strings that bound her to this broken age. And the stars, distant and pale, seemed to shimmer in reply. To understand the world Ranni sought to escape, we must first return to the beginning, to the moment when death itself was locked away. In that time before the Golden Order, the rune of death was one of the many great runes that made up the Elden Ring. It governed the natural end of all things, even the lives of gods and their children. But when Marika rose to godhood, she did something no divine had ever done before. She removed the rune of death from the Elden Ring. With that single act, she reshaped the fate of the world. It was the dawn of the Golden Order, an age where demigods no longer died, at least not in the way they were meant to. Their fated deaths had been stripped from the weave of the world, and so they walked on, unceasing. Yet even in this deathless age, there was one whom the demigods feared, one name that stirred unease in their immortal blood. Malekith, the Black Blade, sworn shadow of Queen Marika. He was more beast than man, feral, towering, wreathed in dread. And within him had been sealed the very rune of death. His sword, forged with that fragment, carried a power unlike any other, the power to bring final death to gods and their kin. It was said that no demigod dared face him. He was not merely executioner, he was death incarnate, and his name came to mean just that, the death of demigods. There once walked a figure known only as the Gloam-eyed Queen, an Empyrean who came into the possession of the Rune of Death long before it was sealed. With it, she shaped the power of the black flame, wielded through her blade, the Godslayer's greatsword. She led a cult of apostles draped in godskin, who followed her into battle. Together, they enacted the God Hunt, turning their flame against those once thought eternal. But even her fire was not enough. In time, Malekith rose to meet her. The battle was bitter and final. The black blade struck down the queen, and the Rune of Death was taken from her hands. Marika entrusted it to Malekith, and through him it was sealed away. Thus ended the age of fated death. Destined death was buried and locked within the beast. The black flames of the godskin apostles faded, and the demigods walked the earth untouched by fate, their ends no longer written in the stars. But it was in this very golden age, this age of stillness where nothing truly ended, that Ranni made her choice. She would not be a pawn, not of the two fingers, not of the greater will, not of fate or flame or grace. She stole a fragment of the Rune of Death, torn from Malekith himself, though the manner of her theft remains unknown. And with it, she enacted a plan that would shatter the course of the world. She entrusted the fragment to a band of silent killers, the Black Knife Assassins, women of Newman blood, descended from the Eternal Cities. Bound by old ties to Marika, these assassins wielded blades of night, now imbued with destined death itself. With them, Ranni would strike not at her enemies, but at herself. To escape the fate of an Empyrean, she could not simply vanish. Her body, chosen to become a vessel for the greater will, had to die. And for the ritual to succeed, another soul would need to perish alongside her. Whether Ranni knew the name of the one who would fall, whether she intended to strike at Godwyn the Golden, beloved son of Marika and Radagon, remains a mystery. But when the knives were drawn and the stars held their breath, the world began to turn, and Ranni's defiance set the heavens themselves adrift. She had watched the stars fall still. She had traced her fingers along constellations that no longer foretold fate. She had studied glintstone and moonlight, wandered moon-kissed forests in secret with the Snow Witch, and dreamed of escape. Now, the moment had come. Ranni's defiance would no longer be quiet. To her brother, Praetor Rykard, she entrusted the blasphemous claw, a dark, jagged relic marked with faint traces of the Rune of Death. Should her plot fail and Malekith rise in wrath, she hoped Rykard might wield it as a last resort. It was both a gift and a farewell. And then the knives were drawn. In the dead of night, the black knives approached Leyndell, the royal capital, each carrying a blade kissed by destined death, stolen from Malekith's sealed power. Their quarry was Godwyn the Golden, firstborn of Queen Marika and Radagon, beloved son of the Erdtree's grace. In that breathless hour, hidden beneath the towering roots of the divine tree, they struck, The blades pierced Godwin's flesh, and upon him they carved the curse mark of death, a sacred seal that should have formed a perfect circle. But something else happened. Far to the west, beneath the hushed halls of Caria Manor, Ranni performed her own rite. At the very moment Godwin's soul was undone, Ranni destroyed her Empyrean body. She perished, not in soul, but in flesh, becoming the first of her kind to sever divinity while preserving will. And thus the curse mark was split. 2 half-wheels, one bound to Godwin, whose soul was slain while his body lingered, the other to Ranni, whose body perished, but whose spirit remained untouched. The assassins vanished. The knives grew quiet. Malekith awoke in fury. To protect the rune of death from ever being stolen once more, he sealed it and his blade within his own body, fusing divine death into his very flesh. In time, he would be known as Gurranq, the beast clergyman, chasing down fragments of the death that had once slipped through his claws. But the damage was already done. Godwin's husk was interred deep beneath the Erd-tree, in the deep-root depths where the curse mark festered and took root. His body, bloated and darkened, warping into something unspeakable. He became the Prince of Death, no longer divine, and not truly gone. From his corrupted corpse, black tendrils spread into the great tree's roots, forming what would become known as Deathroot, the creeping essence of destined death reborn, calling to the restless dead. From this rot rose those who live in death, and with them came unrest, fear, and a sorrow the Golden Order could not banish. Malekith, now Gurranq, would hunt the Deathroot like a starving beast. The more he devoured, the more ravenous he became, a fate worse than death, the guardian of order, now undone by the very hunger he was tasked to contain. And Ranni would vanish. Her soul, free and untethered, took shelter in a vessel of her own design, a dull, delicate and still, shaped after her secret mentor, the Snow Witch. Within it, her spirit stirred, silent and watchful. Whether her death was known to the world remains uncertain. Whether her mother wept or her brothers ever understood, we may never know. But the world was already breaking. In the wake of that fateful night, Queen Marika shattered the Elden Ring, and the world cracked with it. From the ruin came the shattering, a war among demigods and champions, each scrambling for fragments of grace and shards of the Elden Ring. From the ashes rose Fia, the deathbed companion, who found Godwin's soulless body and dreamed of mending it. She sought the 2 halves of the curse mark, wishing to weave a mending rune, one that would embrace those who live in death and not cast them aside. And as Fia wandered in secret, another tarnished, named Rogier, began to follow the trail back to the night of the Black Knives and to the veiled hand that had orchestrated it all. Indeed, I am Ranni the Witch. I stole a fragment of the rune of death and used it to forge the god-slaying black knives through fearsome rite. I did it all, but sadly for thee, the curse mark thou seekest is not to be found here. I have slain the body I was born into and cast it away. and it is upon that flesh the curse mark is carved. When we first meet her, she does not give her true name. She calls herself Renna, a whisper of misdirection, spoken in a voice cool as starlight. Before us stands not a living being, but a spirit woven into a strange, delicate vessel. A four-armed doll, pale as moon ice, clothed in layers of velvet and frost. Her skin is a shade of cold glacial blue, smooth and luminous like polished porcelain. Long flowing hair tumbles past her shoulders in soft ripples, the colour of the deep Leonian sky just before dawn. On her face, one eye glows with a soft cyan light, clear and unblinking. The other is sealed, hidden beneath an azure sigil, as if some unseen truth lies buried within it. Is not of fire, but of starlit sorcery, ancient and distant, as though she looks through the veil of the world itself. She is dressed in an elegant white gown, its silken fabric falling in folds beneath a cloak of thick, voluminous silver-grey fur. 2 long braids descend from her shoulders, earthy brown and carefully bound. Upon her head rests a massive, wide-brimmed witch's hat, its rim drooping low like the bowed wings of a sleeping bird. Around its edge, the inner lining glows faintly, luminescent blue veins weaving through the frost-laced underside like starlight caught in ice. A delicate crown of silver filigree winds along its base, catching the moonlight in gleaming curves. Her voice is soft and dry, as though carried on a breeze from beyond the fog. It is not warmth she offers. It is not trust. But behind her cold greeting lies something deeper, an invitation to follow her into a world where fate no longer holds dominion. When Ranni cast aside her Empyrean flesh, she became a spirit unmoored, a will without a vessel. For most, such a fate would have meant fading, a slow unravelling into the void beyond death. But Ranni was no ordinary soul. Her choice to sever herself from the greater will was not a surrender. It was a transformation. She had rejected the Empyrean body granted by the 2 fingers, a body that would have bound her to the greater will's designs. Instead, she embraced the likeness of the Snow Witch, binding herself to the cold clarity of the moon, to frost and night, and the long road of the stars. When she spoke, her words came as whispers, thin as breath upon glass. I am Ranni the Witch. I stole death long ago, and search now for the dark path, that I might one day upend the whole of it, and rid the world of all that came before. The doll was no mere shell. It was a declaration. It told the world that she would never again bend her knee to the Erd-tree, nor submit to the commands of the 2 fingers. It told her allies that her path was not of warmth or fire, but of frost and starlight. And so she would sit atop her tower at Ranni's rise at the 3 sisters, porcelain and still, a vessel of defiance, no longer the Empyrean chosen to inherit the world, but something else entirely, a witch unbound, whose fate was her own. There is in my service a half-wolven warrior by the name of Blithe. I would have thee join him in searching for the hidden treasure of Nokron, the Eternal City. I have called for Blythe to greet thee below. Take from him the particulars. Ah, and there wilt thou find Eg, my war counsellor, and Celivus, preceptor in the sorcerous arts, also. Heed not their peculiarities. Feel secure in gaining from them what advantage thou canst. I am sure the others will be doing just the same. Though she dwelt within a vessel fragile as porcelain, Ranni was not without companions. Around her gathered 3 who swore themselves to her service, each bound by threads of fate and loyalty. Together they formed a court unlike any in the lands between. The first was Blythe, her shadow. No ordinary knight, he was a towering half-wolf, fur black as midnight, eyes burning with feral intensity. His armour clinked beneath a cloak of long, dark fur, heavy with the weight of hunts fought across forests and ruins. When he stood at her side, he seemed the embodiment of strength itself, a living blade, always poised to strike. He was created by the 2 fingers to serve as Ranni's blade and shield, her shadow-bound beast, as Malekith had been to Marika. His fate was sealed the moment Ranni was chosen as an Empyrean, never truly free, nor truly mortal. His life belonged to her, and to her he remained steadfast. Symbolically, Blythe was more than a servant. The wolf was sacred to the Carian royal covenant, a creature of the moon's pride. It was for this reason Queen Rennala accepted him, raising him as Ranni's stepbrother within Caria Manor. Their bond was forged not only through purpose, but through shared upbringing. As a shadow-bound beast, Blythe could not betray his master, nor could he die in the usual sense. His loyalty was absolute, but the 2 fingers had prepared a contingency. Should an Empyrean rebel, as Ranni would, their shadows were fated to turn. Loyalty would become aggression. Obedience would twist into madness. The shadow would become the baleful. Unaware of this hidden truth, Blythe swore an oath that he would serve no master but Ranni herself, and none but the dark moon. In that moment, the curse upon him was lifted. Frost magic infused his greatsword. The transformation was subtle but complete. The 2 were now bound not by creation, but by choice. Yet, the cold still bothered him. Even as the magic of the moon coursed through his blade, even as his path aligned with Ranni's starless fate, the chill settled in his bones, a reminder perhaps that loyalty, even freely given, carries its own burdens. When Ranni whispered her commands, Blythe obeyed without hesitation. When she needed her presence declared, it was Blythe who carried her words upon the wind, his howl echoing through the woods. Fierce and unyielding, he fought with tooth and steel for her cause. And yet, beneath his ferocity, there was tenderness, a devotion that no chain could forge, but only the bond of trust. For Blythe, Ranni was not simply his lady. She was his purpose, his companion in the long night. To serve her was to fulfill the role written in his very blood. And though tragedy would one day test his fate, in those moonlit hours, he was the sword and shield of his beloved witch. Her second retainer, Celivus, a man of cunning and deceit, a sorcerer whose smile was a mask for endless schemes. His art was puppetry, the transformation of men and women into dolls, bent to his will, their humanity erased, their forms preserved as lifeless echoes. To others, it was a horror. To Celivis, it was perfection. Once acquainted with Sir Gideon Ofnir, they parted ways due to a mutual friend of Gideon's. He swore allegiance to Ranni, though his heart was steeped in ambition. In his secret chambers, he plotted, weaving plans to twist even his own mistress into a puppet under his control. He believed himself clever, untouchable, whispering lies with a silken tongue. Yet Ranni suffered him, for she knew his game. His words, sly and poisonous, could not pierce her cold resolve. She listened and tolerated, and kept him close, not because she trusted him, but because every court requires a schemer, and Celivis, for all his faults, was skilled in shadows where swords could not reach. To her, he was a tool, sharp but brittle, useful so long as he remained within her sight. And so Celivis played his part, unknowing that the doll he dreamed of making her had already declared herself untouchable. The third was War Councillor Iji, a gentle giant of blackened stone, a troll blacksmith whose hammer rang softly beneath the stars. Towering and broad, his body seemed carved from the very earth, yet his voice was low and kind, a murmur that soothed rather than intimidated. War Councillor Iji once smithed weapons for the Carian royal family and their enchanted knights. He had known Ranni and Blythe since they were children, and they would let him join in when they played. Along with Blythe, he swore allegiance to Ranni when she renounced her flesh and chose the dark path. Iji was no mere servant. To him, Ranni was as a daughter. He looked upon her with sorrow, seeing the burden she carried, and with devotion, swearing silently that he could protect her from all who sought her harm. His forge burned long into the night, sparks leaping like fireflies as he shaped weapons and wards to safeguard her path. Where Blythe was her sword and Celivis her whisper, Iji was her shield. Steadfast and unyielding, he stood at her side with patience born of years, his loyalty as solid as the iron he shaped. He counselled her with wisdom, never pressing, never demanding, but offering strength and care when her path grew dark. To those who met him, Iji was a smith of great renown. To Ranni, he was comfort, a reminder that even in rebellion, she was not alone. Together, they formed a strange court, a wolf bound by love, a sorcerer bound by schemes, and a giant bound by devotion. And at their centre sat Ranni, pale and still, porcelain hands folded, eyes closed as though in eternal sleep. Around her, their voices rose and fell, but her own remained soft, each word measured, each command as quiet and deliberate as falling snow. It was not a court of glory. No golden banners adorned its halls. No trumpets declared its presence. It was a court of shadows and silver light, bound by loyalty to a witch who had cast aside her fate and chosen the stars. The lands between lay bathed in the radiance of the Erd-tree. Its golden light fell upon every corner of the realm. The forests of Limgrave, the cliffs of Liurnia, the mountains of Altus, even the farthest shores where waves thundered against stone. To most, that light was blessing. It was warmth, order, eternity itself. To stray from it was to stray from grace. And yet, beyond that golden canopy, the stars still gleamed. Their silver fire shone faintly above the branches, distant and unyielding, as though reminding all who looked upward that another truth existed, older, colder, waiting. The will of the Erd-tree was not its own. It was the voice of the greater will, an outer god whose influence reached into the lands between through its emissaries, the two fingers. Bent and twitching, cracked and ancient, they served as the mouthpiece of the divine, whispering commands to the Empyreans chosen to inherit godhood. To refuse them was unthinkable. To deny their call was heresy. But Ranni, pale and still within her doll's vessel, listened and turned away. She had once been Empyrean, chosen alongside others such as Melania and Miquella, destined to be a vessel through which the greater will would shape the world. That destiny was written into her very flesh. And yet she had rejected it utterly, destroying her body on the night of the Black Knives. No longer Empyrean, no longer bound. When the two fingers reached for her, she spanned them. Where other lords-to-be awaited their guidance, she declared her silence. The tarnished were summoned by grace, golden light guiding them toward thrones and crowns, but Ranni offered no such call. She whispered instead to those who found her, promising a path beyond gold, beyond fire, beyond the will of any god. Her court knew the weight of her defiance. Blithe, sworn to her as her shadow, struggled with the pull of his nature, for he was bound to serve through the will of the fingers, even as she severed herself from them. Celivis, sly and scheming, muttered of opportunity, sensing power in her rejection. And Iji, steady as stone, watched with sorrow and pride, knowing that the path she chose was perilous but also pure. Ranni did not falter. Her rejection was not anger, nor rebellion born of rash pride. It was clarity, cold as moonlight. She saw in the greater will, not guidance but chains. She saw in the Erd-tree, not blessing but prison. And she chose instead to look upward, to the silver stars that no divine hand could command. I was once an Empyrean. Of the demigods, only I, Miquella, and Melania could claim that title. Each of us was chosen by our own two fingers as a candidate to succeed Queen Marika, to become the new god of the coming age. Which is when I received Blithe, in the form of a vassal tailored for an Empyrean. But I would not acquiesce to the two fingers. I stole the rune of death, slew mine own Empyrean flesh, casting it away. I would not be controlled by that thing. The two fingers and I have been cursing each other ever since. In that defiance, she set herself apart. She was no lord of cinders, no champion of grace. She was the witch of the stars, the spirit in a doll, the woman who had slain her own flesh rather than bow to the unseen hand that sought to rule her. To follow her was to step beyond the safety of the Erdtree's glow, into the uncertain dark. Yet in that darkness, there was freedom. In that silence, there was truth. And in Ranni's soft, distant voice, there was promise of a fate chosen and not followed. In the lands between, countless tarnished rose to heed the call of grace, and countless more fell. Each bore their own dream. Some sought to mend the shattered Elden ring and inherit the Golden Order, to sit upon the throne as Elden Lord, vessel of the greater will. Others chose fire, to reduce the Erdtree to ash, and to forge a new order in the crucible of flame. But amid these paths walked one stranger, not of fire, nor of gold, but of frost and stars. After the shattering, Ranni the Witch took note of a newly arrived tarnished, one who rode a spectral steed named Torrent. She first appeared to them at the ruins of the church of Ella, veiled in night, presenting herself as Renna, and asked a simple question. Was this the one entrusted with the spectral steed Torrent? Satisfied with the answer, she presented the tarnished with two gifts, the spirit calling bell and a trio of lone wolf ashes. These were relics passed down from Melina, and Ranni had taken it upon herself to deliver them to Torrent's next chosen rider. With that, she vanished. But their destinies were not finished with one another. Later, at Ranni's rise in the mist-veiled region of the Three Sisters, she revealed her true name and offered the tarnished a place in her service. Her request was specific: uncover the path to Nokron, Eternal City, and recover its hidden treasure. But the path to Nokron was sealed, held fast in the heavens themselves. For it was her brother, Starscourge Radahn, who bound the stars in place. So long as he lived, the fate of Ranni remained frozen. Only through Radahn's defeat could the stars resume their course and her purpose continue. Once a proud general of unmatched might, Radahn had mastered the gravity magics of Celia so that he could defy the pull of the earth itself and ride his beloved but frail steed into battle. Yet after the shattering, his mind was broken by the scarlet rot, and he became a ravenous beast, stranded amidst the wastes of Caelid. And still, even in madness, Radahn held the stars at bay. He had shackled the firmament itself, suspending the fates of those who dwelt below. The night sky, once filled with the whispering stars, was made still, and with it, Ranni's destiny was frozen. To free it, the Starscourge had to fall. And so a festival of war was declared at Redmane Castle. Beneath the crimson sky of Caelid, warriors from across the lands between gathered to challenge the demigod. With blade and spell, the tarnished and blithe stepped into the ashen field. And when Radahn was at last defeated, the heavens rejoiced. The stars sang once more. Fate stirred from slumber, and in a torrent of light that rent the sky asunder, a path was opened deep into the earth where the eternal city of Nokron had long awaited. Within its depths, the tarnished uncovered the Fingerslayer blade, a weapon that, although could not be wielded by those without fate, it was said to be able to harm the greater will and its vassals. When the Tarnished brought this treasure of the Nox to Ranni, she claimed, "Ah, it was thee, not blithe it seemeth. Even in my slumber I sensed it. It is in thy possession, is it not? The hidden treasure of Nokron. My thanks. Finally, all the pieces are in place. Soon I must begin my journey. Upon the dark path only I may tread." With this weapon in hand, Ranni descended into the subterranean reaches of Ainsel River, eventually reaching the haunting ruins of Noxtella, Eternal City. But the two fingers had not forgotten their betrayal. They sent forth baleful shadows, remnants of shadow-bound beasts twisted by her rebellion. Ranni's champion destroyed them, and in thanks, she granted them a key to a sealed chest in Raya Lucaria, containing the Dark Moon Ring. With this, her final test was set. She vanished soon after, her soul slipping away, her puppet body left behind. Ranni had gone to the Cathedral of Manus Celis atop the moonlight altar. There, beneath a slumbering two fingers, she completed her task. The two fingers were slain, and thus her bond with the greater will severed forever. Her dull form lay abandoned in the aftermath, awaiting one who understood the path she walked. Should the Tarnished follow? Should they return with the Dark Moon Ring, a ring supposed to be given by Lunar Princess Ranni to her consort? Ranni awakens once more. In that moment, upon the altar, she accepts them not only as her consort, but as her equal. So it was thee who would become my lord. Perhaps I needn't have warned thee. I am pleased, however. Thou art a fitting choice. I go now to the night sky. It is there I shall find mine order. I bid thee travel the path of the Lord, and once all is done, we shall see each other once more. The Dark Moon Greatsword is the Tarnished's gift, a moonsword bestowed by a Carian queen upon her spouse to honour long-standing tradition. Ranni's sigil is a full moon, cold and leaden, and this sword is but a beam of its light. And with it, she unveils the truth. She will become a new god. Hers will be the age of the stars, a 1,000-year-long era in which the influence of the outer gods is banished from the lands between. In its place, cold starlight, and the freedom to shape one's own fate. I thought I might expound a little further upon the order I envision. Mine will be an order not of gold, but the stars and moon of the chill night. I would keep them far from the earth beneath our feet. As it is now, life and souls and order are bound tightly together, but I would have them at great remove, and have the certainties of sight, emotion, faith and touch all become impossibilities, which is why I would abandon this soil with mine order. Wouldst thou come to me, even now, my one and only Lord? If the Tarnished chooses this path, if they summon Ranni after defeating the Elden beast, then together they depart. A blue moon ascends, the stars wheel into motion, and a new order begins, distant, cold, and eternal, the age of stars has come. Ranni's eyes were never fixed upon the golden branches, nor upon the fires that threatened them. Her gaze was higher, farther, and colder. Her eyes, though forever closed in her doll's form, turned always to the stars. The age of stars was her vision, an era not of warmth, nor of golden blessing, but of mystery and release. Where the light of the tree commanded, her night would liberate. Where the voice of the fingers whispered, her silence would endure. Where fate bound mortals and gods alike, her path would unbind them. She spoke of a 1,000-year voyage, a dreamlike age where she would guide the lands between, beneath the pale glow of the moon. No more would the greater will's hand reach down to meddle, to chain, to decree. The people would be free, though what that freedom meant none could fully know. For freedom is vast and uncertain, and it comes not with warmth, but with chill. Imagine in your mind's eye the tree's golden blaze dimmed, its shadow no longer falling upon the earth. The sky above, black as velvet, stitched with stars, the moon riding full and silver. Liurnia's waters reflecting not gold, but silvery light. The forests hushed, their branches silvered by frost, the lands between drifting into a long, cold dream beneath her watchful gaze. It is not an age of comfort. There would be no hearth fire of grace, no warm glow of divine protection. Instead, the night would stretch long, a companion both beautiful and distant, like the moon reflected in a dark lake. Hers was a promise one could see, but never hold. And yet, to those who longed for freedom, for choice unshackled, it was salvation. In her vision, the tarnished who follows her does not kneel as servant, nor ascend as monarch. They take her hand as consort, not bound by grace, but by will. Together they walk into the unknown, a marriage of purpose. Bride and consort beneath the moon, their steps carrying them far from thrones and crowns, far from fire and gold, into an eternity of silence and starlight. It is an ending that feels less like conquest and more like drifting into a dream. The lands between fall quiet, the air grows still, the sky darkens, and the stars gleam brighter than ever. The world itself seems to exhale, as though finally unshackled. No lord reigns, no god commands. Only the cold moon watches, eternal and aloof. The age of stars is a long night, 1,000 years where freedom glimmers faint as frost, where the world sleeps beneath silver light, and where the promise of mystery lingers beyond reach. And so, as the tarnished takes her hand and the night unfolds, she speaks softly. To every living being and every living soul, now cometh the age of the stars, 1,000-year voyage under the wisdom of the moon. Here beginneth the chill night that encompasses all, reaching the great beyond, into fear, doubt, and loneliness, as the path stretcheth into darkness. Well then, shall we, my dear consort, eternal? And with those words, The golden age ends, the age of stars begins, and the lands between drifts beneath a cold, eternal sky. In Ranni's tale, we find ourselves reflected. Do we accept the warmth of certainty, even when it binds us, or do we walk into the cold of the unknown, free but alone? She is a mirror of that choice, her porcelain face a reflection of the question each heart must ask. And so, we leave her beneath the endless sky, Ranni the Witch, Princess of Caria, architect of the Black Knives, spirit in a doll, and herald of the stars, a daughter of both Moon and the Erd Tree, who rejected both and chose instead the silent company of eternity. If you follow her, you do not kneel before a throne. You do not burn in fire, nor bask in golden light. You walk beside her, hand in porcelain hand, into the enchanted dark. Together, you step beyond the reach of gods, beyond the branches of the Erd Tree, into the vast silence where only the stars remain. Now, as we finish our tale of Ranni the Witch, let the hush of the night enfold you. Let the stars drift above your mind's eye. Let the moonlight soften your breath, your thoughts, your very heartbeat. May your dreams wander far from golden branches, into silver forests, into the eternal night, where Ranni's voice whispers softly. Even when I turned my back upon the two fingers, Blythe remained my loyal ally. Though he was created a vassal for an Empyrean, he was a colossal failure on the part of the two fingers. Blythe and E.G. both art willing to give too much to me, yet they both understand what lieth beyond the dark path, that I must betray everything, and rid the world of what came before. Ah, should I add thee to the list? Another one, kind of heart as they. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment below with what you'd like me to cover next. Your continued support means the world to me. Until next time, sleep well, and may the moon keep watch over you.